Basically, Cinema Comunista is a documentary about the way cinema was used in the former Yugoslavia to create an official narrative or an official dream for the country. The whole story is framed by the old film studios that were built by the communist government and by the fact that Tito, who was the Yugoslav dictator, was a big film fan. Tito was in Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution, so I think he kind of had a first-hand insight into this whole philosophy of Lenin, that film was the most important of all the propaganda forms. And definitely when dealing with a population that was largely illiterate, film was definitely a more powerful way of projecting this message of, you know, the new social order than any other media.
Taj novi, bolji život, što ga naš narod gradi svojim rukama, to je socijalizam u koji nas vodi naša partija I drug Tito.
The research for this film took about 4 years, which I didn't dream of when I started. I simply thought, okay, let's try and reconstruct the history of the studios. So I went into the Yugoslav newsreels, which were our biggest kind of archive of that documented the events from 1945 onwards. And it was really difficult to do the research because none of it has been digitized. In many cases, the archive was either flooded or suffered some kind of destruction, so it's kind of impossible to physically find the reels. So what I did was I would talk to the people who were the characters in my films, or I would talk to other old film workers, and they would tell me of events which they believed must have been filmed. And then I would go into Tito's private archive and figure out the probable date when these things took place, and then I would go into the newsreels and say, okay, can I look at everything you have from this month or everything you have from that year? And that's when I started finding material that no one's ever really seen before. The biggest discovery in terms of the way the film took shape was when I realized that Tito's personal projectionist was still alive. This was a good 2 years into my research.
Druže predsjedniče Tito, ja sam vaš kino aparater bio 32 godine I zahvalan sam na svemu tome.
He'd never given an interview before, and he didn't want to give an interview. Really, when he started kind of exploring the space that he hadn't been back to in 30 years, he started opening up. He stood behind Tito every single night for 32 years because he showed Tito a film every single day for 32 years. But through his stories, you really begin to get a picture of Yugoslavia or of Tito that I don't think has ever been put together before. Filmmakers had sent him scripts where he had written notes on the margins, his own kind of personal commentary, particularly in the war films, which dealt with Tito's role in the war.
Ovo ne odgovara stvarnosti. Scenarij ću pročitati, dati svoje mišljenje. Mene ne treba direktno davati. Tito.
The intertwining of politics and film became very clear when I went into his archive. They revealed the extent to which he really was the master storyteller of Yugoslavia. I don't think Cinema Comunista is at all a true representation of the history of Yugoslavia, but I think it is a study in how a government used fiction and illusion and cinema in order to create what was the official narrative of the country.